I'm Dale Wilson. I'm the founder and president of Portfolio Scientific. Portfolio Scientific is a future state management consultancy. We help companies identify and select changes to their organizations and operations that will maximize their future business performance. The coronavirus is hitting many companies really hard, and leadership is faced with the task of identifying and selecting actions that will best steer the company through this situation. Although hardly maximizing future business performance, working with companies to select the right changes is exactly what we do. We think we can provide guidance and structure that supports effective decision-making to companies impacted by this situation, and this video provides an approach on how we could provide that assistance. Let's start by looking at the current situation. It's pretty bleak for many companies. There's been a collapse of economic activity, forcing many to reduce their operations or close their doors altogether, voluntarily or involuntarily. This crisis was created completely by external factors. Leadership can do nothing to contain it. It's completely out of their control. The informational landscape is highly fluid. Information needed to make decisions shifts rapidly. Businesses can't maintain their operations in the same manner as they did before the crisis. They have to make changes, and many of those changes could be difficult. But the options are not always very clear. Objectives are important. They define company direction and provide the structure to assess whether decisions under consideration are aligned to that direction. Assessing how well a potential decision furthers those objectives needs to be a foundational decision-making activity. While objectives should always be specific to a company, we believe these two objectives are likely pertinent to many impacted businesses. First, getting through the crisis with minimum damage is the immediate objective. Sadly, minimum does not always mean small. In this case, minimum means contained. We'll want to contain and minimize the damage caused by the pandemic as much as possible. Second, there will be life after coronavirus. It is important to be ready for it if possible. An objective that focuses on accelerated growth after the virus abates provides a second focus for decisions. The best decisions would support both objectives, minimizing damage and protecting future growth. A lot of people throughout the organization will have ideas about what to do to respond to the pandemic, and those ideas won't all be pulling in the same direction. It is likely a pretty chaotic mix. The challenge for leadership is how to get from that chaotic mass of ideas to a collective and consistent set of actions that is directional. Decisions that work together, driving toward the delivery of the stated objectives. To do that, it will be important to be structured and thoughtful, to be planful. That will be difficult in the current environment. But if we are not structured and thoughtful, our decisions could end up like this. Decisions that pull the organization in different and often conflicting directions. That happens when decisions are made in isolation, as one-offs, and are not considered in the full context of other decisions. Isolated and one-off decisions are not the outcomes of structured and thoughtful practices, but are usually the result of reactive and impulsive behavior. For many, business conditions are dire. That can create an environment of fear. Reactive behaviors thrive in a fearful environment. It is crucial for leadership to fight through that fear. Leadership needs to resist isolated, one-off decisions and embrace structured and thoughtful decision-making. The successful navigation through this crisis will depend on that. Leadership faces a situation that is not business as usual. The conditions are very different. While we need to be responsive and thoughtful, monolithic planning, the primary planning tool of business, is just too risky. You'd have to pick a single path. And what is that path? You'd need to be a seer to accurately determine how this crisis is going to unfold and then plan accordingly. And the consequences of picking the wrong path are great. The margin of error is very slim. The cost of being wrong could very well be the survival of the business. We need to take a different approach. An approach that develops anticipatory options. An approach that also allows us to remain true to our objectives. We need to apply scenario-based management practices. Scenario-based practices have been around for years. They are not used frequently because business prefers to plan monolithically. But scenario planning is ideal for times of uncertainty, and uncertainty fits the description of our situation today. The scenario model should always be developed in the context of the specific business that is using the practice, but we'll go through the structure of the practice here. The scenario building process starts with the identification of the two most powerful factors that are driving the situation. The coronavirus is well suited to this step. We'll call the horizontal driver duration and define our anchors as shorter and longer. The duration is how long the crisis will impact the business, not how long the crisis will continue generally. We'll call the vertical factor impact scale. We'll anchor the factor with few and many. Impact scale needs to be defined in the context of the business. For example, for many consumer businesses, the issue isn't how many people are infected with the virus. The issue is how many people are practicing shelter in place and are not leaving their homes and not spending money in their businesses. With the key factors defined, we now describe our conditions. Each condition requires two elements: a general description, which defines the condition's environment, and the business impacts, which states how the condition impacts the specific business. That exercise is completed then for each condition. The next step is to plot today's position. In this case, we're saying the crisis has not been going for long and the number of people impacted has been lightly moderate. This is just an example for sake of illustration. Now we define our scenarios. From where we are today, we plot what we believe are the probable paths. We can plot as many paths as we think we need. For each scenario, we develop sequenced business actions, plans, that we would execute if the scenario appears to be the general direction of the situation. From here, we monitor and plot the progress of the situation. We execute the plan that is closest to the plot, or we can modify the plan to more tightly align to the situation's direction. As the situation develops and a specific direction appears to emerge, we may want to develop an overall new plan that is narrower in scope and in the general direction the situation is heading. Scenario planning is an approach that is well suited to the coronavirus pandemic. It provides management with the ability to define planful options that can be responsive to different conditions. The approach does have some nuances, and we'd be happy to provide businesses with assistance. We see our role as advisor and facilitator. As always, you would be the decision maker. We are offering flexible rates significantly below our standard model. Many businesses are under stress. We can help by offering our expertise in a more affordable manner. We'll work with you to determine an appropriate cost model. Please feel free to contact us at the email below. Thank you for your time. We wish you structured and thoughtful success.